from Kate-EmVintage, and I'm a knitter and I live in Yorkshire, and this is my first ever podcast episode. So I've been wanting to make a podcast for ages, like it's been on my list of things to do for probably a year and a half, and every time I think I'm going to do it, I have some kind of internal panic that I don't know what I'm doing, and then I put it off for a bit. But I love watching podcasts, and at the end of this I'm going to talk about the people that I'm watching a lot at the moment, and I want to be part of that community because it's lots of fun. And I thought, what am I doing, just not doing it? Like, it might be terrible, I'm really sorry, it might be brilliant, excellent, and if it's somewhere in between, then I'll learn what I'm doing as I'm going along. So that's the plan. So today I'm going to focus mostly on knitting because that's my primary craft that I do most of the time, but I do like making other things. I like a bit of sewing, a bit of embroidery, a bit of whatever else comes along. So sometimes there might be other crafts in the episode, but today it's knitting. And I think what I'm going to do is I'll talk about what I'm wearing, and then I'll talk about what I've recently made, which is going to cover a couple of months, because obviously starting halfway through the year. And then I'll show you what I'm knitting at the moment, talk about some future making plans, and then might do a little bit about reading because, as you can see, I read quite a lot. I haven't read all of these, by the way. This is a mixture of things that I've read and things that I haven't read yet, but I want to. And then, yeah, whatever else comes up. So I think we'll just go right in with what I'm wearing. So this is my newest make. I finished it. I finished sewing in the ends this morning, but I finished knitting it yesterday. And it is the Tolster Tee by Rebecca of the Crayobear. And obviously this pattern's been out for, I don't know, a year and a bit, maybe a bit longer. And I've been wanting to knit it for ages and it's just kept not happening. And then this year I thought I would try and knit a couple of summer garments. I'm not a huge summer garment knitter, mostly because secretly I don't really like the summer. I burn. I have to stay in the shade. Like, it doesn't really matter what I'm wearing because I'm going to be coated in sun cream, but there's so many nice patterns around, and I thought, right, I'll have a go and see if I get anywhere out of it. So the Tolster was my first stop. Obviously, most of Rebecca's examples are knitted in wool, but lots of the testers and other people who've knitted it have knitted it in summer fibres. So I found some 100% cotton from James C. Brett, and this colour's called Khaki, and it sort of looks grey in some lights and green in others, and I guess it's a greeny grey. But I just thought it would be a really good neutral to go with lots of things. So I'll just stand up and hopefully you'll be able to see a bit more of it. I had some trouble because I chose my yarn first and then I tried to make the yarn fit the pattern, and I found that on the needle size that's recommended, I wasn't getting the right number of stitches across. I was having too few, but my rows, I was far too long, and so I couldn't go down a needle size particularly, because then to make my rows shorter, because then I wouldn't have enough stitches across. And I know you can do great maths, but I was worried that because it's a yoke and a raglan, I was worried that I'd have to do the maths to work out the decreases if my rows were too long. Otherwise the yoke depth would have been long, and I don't like maths. I can do knitting maths, but I try and avoid it if I can. And so I ended up switching needles sizes till I hit the row gauge exactly, and then I thought, right, I'll work it up from that to work out the number of stitches and pick a size that kind of fits that number of stitches, if that makes sense. So I think I've ended up making maybe a size 8 in the end, and it's probably if I made it again, I'd want it a little bit smaller, but that's what worked out with this yarn combo. It's very nice to wear. It's quite airy because it's quite a loose gauge, and it's a nice fit if you want it a bit loose, but that gives me the option of wearing it over a dress or something, so I think actually that will be quite helpful. And I've somehow gone a little bit long, but again, you can just tuck that in or deal with it. So I really enjoyed making it. I think Rebecca writes really lovely patterns, and so I'm pleased that I've got a Tolster done. Obviously also the fit in cotton is different because it's looser, it's drapier, it's not gonna sort of spring back quite as much, and maybe if I'd have thought a bit more about that, I might have changed my gauge slightly, but I didn't. So that's where we're at with that. So this is hot off the needles from yesterday. And then if we move on to other finished objects that I've made quite recently, there's just a couple really. The first one is the Midge pullover by Tasha Could Make That, and I'm saying this, I'm gonna put a picture in here to show it on. I don't know how to do that yet, but maybe by the end of this I will know how to do that, and there will be a picture, and if there isn't, it's because I didn't learn, and I'll find out how to do that for next time. So I was a tester for Tasha on the Midge pullover that she released, and it's a really beautiful jumper pattern, and I'll get it and I'll show it to you. So this is it. I'll just stand up a bit so you can see a bit more, and you can make it stripy or you can make it plain. There's a choice with your necklines as well, and it's knitted in boucle, and I hadn't knitted anything in boucle but had been really very keen to, and I knitted a size to have quite a lot of positive ease because it's sort of quite boxy, and I wanted it to be loose and very comfortable. So I've knitted the size 51 inch, and I'm about a 47 probably, so it's got a decent amount of ease on it, but I thought, oh, it'd just be really cozy. And the first one, the one I knitted for the test, I love it. I loved it I loved it more than I thought I would, in that I don't really wear oversized things particularly, and except for when I make them slightly wrong, but I love the fit of it, and it's so cozy, and I loved wearing it. So I decided that actually I really just wanted to make a second one, and also I'd seen these two yarns and I really wanted to put them together. So I kind of call this my Bertie Bassett jumper. If you know Licorice All Sorts, then Bertie Bassett is the little character made out of all the different Licorice All Sorts, but the colour palette, like obviously this is the licorice, and this is like the, I don't know what they are, like fondanty bits that go around, and the coconut bits that go around the middle. So I love it. It makes me laugh. Like half of me is like, is it ugly? And half of me is like, no, I just love it. So who cares if it's ugly? I used yarn from two different independent dyers. So this is Hex by by Giddy Ant Yarns, but I've forgotten what they've renamed themselves as, but they're not dyeing as Giddy Ant Yarns anymore, which is a shame because they had some really good stuff. And then this is the colourway Northern Quarter by Mammy and Florrie. And I really love her yarns, A, because just the colours are beautiful, but B, she names them after places. And I think it's really lovely, especially if you've been to a place and sort of the colours of it are there in a yarn for you. So the Northern Quarter, for people who don't know, who aren't from around here, is an area of Manchester, which is, it's quite a sort of funky cool area, lots of like bars and cafes and things. Sort of has been an up and coming area, and they've also got like a great art craft market thing there. Love the Northern Quarter. So yeah, that was brilliant. So obviously totally not the right time of year to be wearing a boucle double knit big old jumper, even in Yorkshire, which is not a tropical paradise. This is going to be too warm, but I'm really excited because it means that when autumn rolls around, I am ready with my lovely jumper. So that I'm really pleased with that one. And then my other sort of most recent make has been the finishing of a really long-term project, which was a habitation throw. And the pattern's by Curious Handmade. Hopefully there was some footage of it at the beginning of this, if I learned how to do that. Because obviously it's a massive blanket. It's not very easy to show it, but I'll have a go. Just find the right beginning. So I knitted this in the yarn advent from Beehive Yarns, which was the 2022 advent. And Beth makes amazing advents, and this one was called A Year at the Cabin, and the colourways follow through spring, summer, autumn, winter if you were living in a lovely log cabin somewhere, a bit Little House on the Prairie type scenario. So I'll just show you bits of it. So this is like the very springy bit, then summer gets a bit brighter, hopefully you can see that. Then we go into autumn, and then we've got some winter colours going on. Now I love the habitation throw. I've knitted one before. It is my go-to blanket for cuddling up on the sofa. As mentioned before, it's not always very warm around here, so in the evening I still have these blankets on my sofa at the moment for in the evening snuggling up. And there was a point knitting this where I was under my previous habitation throw, knitting my new habitation throw, which was quite exciting. I started this, I did cast it on in December 2022, and I knew that it would just be a long-term project. I decided that I wasn't going to kind of rush it or necessarily knit on it all the time, and there were like months where I didn't knit on it at all. But I really like having a blanket going on in the background, some kind of long-term project. And I really like having a project that once you know what you're doing, you can just get on and sit and knit and knit and knit. Because it's mostly garter stitch, and then every 10 rows there's like the eyelet row. So once you've got that in your head, you know, you only have to concentrate once every 10 rows basically. So it's great for watching the telly or for taking to knit night, or you know, if you're just chatting or whatever, it's a brilliant thing to have on the go. So you'll see more about my love of blankets in a little bit, but that one's lovely. It's already been used, and I'm very happy to just have 2 blankets to snuggle up under, frankly. So the other thing, I'm going to say that this is a current make that's finished. I mean, technically, it depends where you draw the line, doesn't it? It depends when a garment is finished. Is it finished when you finish knitting it? Because I kind of think so. Or is it finished when you can wear it, which could be a completely different thing. And this is where this one is at. It is finished, as in the knitting is done, but I haven't sewn any ends in, and it's a cardigan and that doesn't have any buttons yet. So technically finished, maybe not quite. Again, this was a test knit for Tasha from Tasha Could Make That. Been lucky to do a few test knits for Tasha, and I've always really enjoyed them. She writes super clear patterns. She's great for, when you need to sort of come back and check things as you're going through the test. And she makes such lovely vintage inspired patterns for knitting. And I love her whole look and her, she sews an enormous amount. If you don't sort of follow her, she sews lots of clothes from vintage patterns or from kind of vintage inspired type things. And her knitting is amazing. So this is called the Express Line cardigan. Let's see if I can just show you a bit of it. God, it's smelling warm, like warm wool at the moment. So it's in a lovely texture. It's very heavy and weighty because it is knitted. It's like in America they call it a bulky weight, and over here I don't really know. It's kind of like super chunky, but like extra super chunky. So I knitted this using Drops Andes, I think was the yarn that I used, and it's in the colour Sea Foam, which is sort of a beautiful duck egg. I don't know how it's coming out on here, but it's like a really beautiful duck egg colour. And as I said, it was a test knit. And I was doing really well on it, and then I developed a knitting injury. Lots of people don't believe that you can get knitting injuries, but you so can. You so totally can. And I got tennis elbow from knitting. I don't play tennis, but I got it from knitting. And I think some of it was because I'd been knitting a lot. I've just been knitting a lot, but also this is quite, again, because it's quite bulky. Once you got onto the small circumference for the sleeves, and I normally knit sleeves on like very small fixed circulars, like 30 centimetre round ones, I had to hold the Drops Andes double to get the right gauge for this. And so I found it was quite hard work on the tiny circumference, and I think that's what gave me the tennis elbow. So there was a really distressing part where I couldn't knit very much, and if I was knitting I had to put this down and knit something else for a while, which was not a scenario that I enjoyed. So I didn't finish quite when the test knit finished, which was, I don't like that. I like, if I've committed to a test knit, I want to have finished it for when the designer is releasing the pattern. So that was a bit unfortunate. But I have finished the knitting, but because it's not the right season, I guess. Like, this is going to be so fabulous when it gets cooler. It's not hot, but too hot for a super chunky cardigan at the moment. And I think that's why I haven't finished the ends and put the buttons on. I've got the buttons, got them ages ago, and really there's probably like an hour, not even that, of actually doing it. And most days I think, oh yeah, I'll spend some time today on my express line cardigan, and then I'm like, oh dear, but I could just knit whatever I'm knitting, and that's what I do. So maybe like a goal for the next week could be, let's get this finished and then I can pop it away, and then when it comes to September, I'm ready with my lovely cozy cardigan. But it's really lovely, and I'm really pleased that I knitted one of them. So that's really the sort of main things that I've knitted in the last sort of couple of months, really. So if we think now about things that I'm knitting at the moment, I've only got 2 projects on my needles at the moment. I tend to only have sort of 2 or 3, well, let's be truthful, I have loads of projects on my needles, but they're like retired or in the naughty corner or just not the right time of year or whatever. So if we're being absolutely truthful, there's loads of things on my needles, but actively on my needles, just 2 things at the moment. Possibly there's a third to come, but I am mostly let's knit things, finish them, wear them. Like, I enjoy the process of knitting them, but I don't necessarily want lots of projects on the go all at once. So I have got 2 things on the needles, like I said, and the first one did I cast on yesterday? Yeah. So this is going to be the Layla top by Cadre, and hopefully there'll be a picture, and it's a new release. I think it only came out this last week, and it's very different from anything that I normally make. Like I said, I'm not really a summer garment knitter, and it's a vest, like a textured vest, quite thin across the shoulders but quite high neck, and sort of semi-fitted. And I think maybe it was I love a textured knit, and I saw the pattern and thought it was really, really nice, and it just kind of stuck in my head. And then I was watching Young Folk Knits podcast, and is it Casey? I'm going to say Casey, I hope that's right. Was one of the test knitters, and she knitted a beautiful one, and I just thought, yeah, I want that. And also she the original design's just got like an I-cord, a really, really thin strap, and if you need to have a bra on and you don't have really narrow straps, it would definitely show. So that was my first misgiving. Like, I thought, oh well, that I wouldn't be able to wear a bra, and that's not what we're doing. For me, anyone else, that's absolutely fine. But Casey had changed it to like a little knitted, just a garter strap, and it worked, and it hides the bra strap. So then I thought, yeah, I'm good to go. That's what I want to make. So I had a little look in my stash, and I had some drops cotton from last year, in this really great blue. Yeah, fabulous blue colour. And I don't think it's got a name. It's Drops Saffron, which is their 4-ply, and it's colour 73. And I think I got mine from Wool Warehouse, and if you don't follow Wool Warehouse, every so often they do a drop sale, and I think I got it last year in the drop sale. So it's always worth a look for that. So anyway, this is all we've got. Not a lot, but you can see, hopefully, that there's that lovely texture. There's stocking stitch and then bits of garter, and you've got that really good texture there. And I love the colour. I think it's going to work. And so I'm quite excited about this. It's 100% cotton, so it will be really good for summer. I also thought it would be quite good like under a cardigan, or you know, under a shirt, something like that. So I'm quite excited about this. See how I get on with that one. And the second thing that I've got on the needles at the moment is another blanket, obviously. And it's another habitation throw. Now, I'd just like to say that I'm not opposed to other blanket patterns, and actually I have my eye on two that will probably be my next blankets, which are both by Laura Penrose, and one is the Sweet Shop blanket, which I absolutely love, and I think my 2023 advent, which I haven't started knitting yet, will go into being one of those. That's what Beth from Beehive made, and hers is beautiful, and I've got the same advent, so I think that's what I'll do. And then Laura is also in the middle of designing, you've probably seen it, an amazing blanket that's that I think it's called the Stella blanket, and it looks like it's a star pattern that looks like a traditional patchwork quilt, and I think it's amazing, and I definitely want to make one of those. But this is my third habitation throw, and I really have only just started it, so like, you know, it's very small so far. We're still on the first colour, but there's only that much of the first colour to go. And also just a minute for my fabulous flamingos stitch toppers, which got from Beehive Yarns. This is the 2022 advent from the Fibre Fox, and Georgie at the Fibre Fox dyes really lovely stuff, and I loved their advent that I got that year. So this will be a blanket using that advent, and then like I'm catching up on my advents basically. And then this, don't know if you can see, but this other green is the second colour that's going to go in soon. So again, this is just a long-term project, just gonna sit in my bag by the side of the sofa, and I'll knit on it when I'm, you know, between projects, or when I need a palette cleanser, or when I'm going to knit night or something like that. So that's up to date. Then I've got a few making plans. I don't know how realistic they are, but I am, like I said, having a go at some summer knits this year. So there are a couple more that I'm thinking of. Last week, Amy Shear Knits, she released the Phoebe top. Hopefully there'll be a picture. And it's like a vest, but cabled, but designed for the summer. And I really like, again, texture. I love the look of it. And I think it would be really nice to have a go at that in some kind of summer fibre. She's used a silk for one of the ones that she has shown on the pattern, which looks beautiful. So hopefully that might come along. And then also, yesterday, I think Rebecca from the Crayobear released the Tolster tank pattern, which I'm sure you've seen, but it's a 3 pieces in one pattern. There's like a square necked vest, there's a more sort of camisole-y top, and then I think this is the one that's called the tank, is sleeveless, quite close armpits, quite high up like that. That's the one that I fancy the most. And I think in my stash I have got some cotton silk blend I can't remember who, it's been in there for years. But I think hopefully that will work with the pattern. It comes, I think my yarn's double knit and the pattern comes in a double knit and a 4-ply version. So hopefully I'll be having a go at that, and that'll come in. And then those 2 patterns will be leading me into what I think my next sort of focus is going to be, because I feel a tank top era coming on. Now I know that we're all calling them vests now, but I mean, they're tank tops, aren't they? And I want some tank tops, like properly, really badly. And there's been so many amazing designs come out that which I'm not going to talk about now because I'm not at the point yet, but that's going to be the next focus after the summer knits. That's where we're going. Tank top era is coming. Right, so that's caught up on everything that I've made and I've been making. I have a couple of things to sort of show that I've bought recently. One of them is, so I said that this was James Seabrett 100% cotton, and I also got it, hopefully this will show up, in this really fabulous purple. It's quite a deep purple, and it's like a Cadbury's chocolate purple, and it's a double knit, and I've got enough to do a summery cardigan, quite a, a sort of lightweightish cardigan. So I'm still deciding pattern wise, but that is destined for that make, hopefully. I also got in Beth from Beehive Yarns, she, not her most recent sale, not her birthday sale, but her release before that, I got 4 skeins of this, which I don't know if you can see, but it's like the most gorgeous kind of duck egg colour. And I got it on her dolly base, which is a double knit. It's a merino, and I'll just show you that. And it's called April Showers, and it was a club colour like a year ago or something, and I remember the club because the sort of inspiration picture, I'm sure this is right, was a bowl of eggs, like different colour, natural different colour eggs, and you get this kind of blue egg, don't you, obviously, duck egg, but I couldn't get it at the time, but that colour had stayed with me for quite a while, and then when she re-released it I was like, yes, I need myself some of this. So this is going to be one of the vest tank tops. I don't know which one yet, but that's what it's destined to be. So I'm very pleased with that. I got another couple of things. I got from Emma from Yarnistry, who makes amazing sort of notions. I got these, I don't know if you can see, but they are stitch markers, and they're, let me just see if I can sort that one out because it's an amazing glitter one. There you go. And they're pansies, and when she showed them I was like, oh yeah, I love those, I'd like some of those. And she also made the set before that with these amazing daffodils, and I thought they were fabulous, and like how cheerful to have on your knitting. So I treated myself to those. And then the last thing, sort of knit-wise, that I've bought recently is the most recent issue of the Journal of Scottish Yarns. So we're on issue 5 now. And if you don't know it, it's an amazing magazine. It's a collection of patterns that are specifically designed for the magazine, and then really interesting articles about textile, wool production, knitting history, all sorts of things like that, in Scotland. And because Scotland has such an amazing textile history, I find it yeah, I find it fascinating, and there's always like some good stuff to read in here, as well as some nice patterns. And one pattern that particularly caught my eye is this one here, for this sort of wrap, and it's called the Common Blue Shawl. And do I know who designed it though? I can tell you in a minute. Solvi Lass Evans designed it. There's another picture of it there. And I just thought, what a fabulous, sorry, not very technically adept. What a beautiful way to showcase some mini skeins. And I just thought, yeah, I think that's coming to my needles at some point. I think it's really pretty. And there's also, what was the other? I mean, there's loads of lovely, lovely tops in here. Oh, I very much like this one as well. This is called the Pathfinder top, which is by Kelly Alderman. I thought that was really nice. And then I also very much like this one, which is the Myrtle waistcoat by Rebecca from the Crayer Bear. That's very pretty. It's not necessarily something I would have thought of wearing, but it's very pretty. So I mean, I like just looking at it, but who knows, maybe that'll come up, maybe not. Yeah, that's pretty much everything that I have bought recently for my knitting. The final thing I thought I'd talk about is just a couple of books that I've read recently, in case I think knitting and reading goes together really well. It seems to me lots of people who are knitters are also quite avid readers. I haven't at all mastered reading and knitting at the same time. I'm very much either I like to be doing my knitting, or I like to be curled up with a book, going fully into it, but I definitely can see the appeal of being able to do them both at once. I have just read two very clever thrillers, one of which was called The Hike by Lucy Clark, and that's sort of a group of women who were very close, and they've sort of come back together to do this hike in Norway, and mysterious things happen along the way. Can't really tell you more than that, but it's very cleverly done. And the other clever thriller that I just read, I don't think either of these are particularly new, by the way. These were charity shop finds that I enjoyed. Was Platform 7 by Louise Doty, and that the first sort of section is really just set on Platform 7 in a train station, and you wouldn't have thought that you could particularly make that interesting, but it's very good. And both of those books have got really good, strong female characters in them as well, and they were ones that you get like fully gripped by, really immersed in. You just want to read them and finish. So I really enjoyed those. Then I've just read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, which is, you probably know, the sort of prequel to the Hunger Games series. And it's been made into a film, so you know, you might have seen the film. I've deliberately not watched the film because I wanted to read the book first. And I borrowed this from my friend, and I read quite a lot of young adult YA books. I find them immensely gripping and well written, and just kind of really nice if you just want to lose yourself in a book. And so me and my friend's daughter were talking about YA, because she reads quite a lot of that as well, and she basically said to me, in the way that like only a teenager can do to you, she was like, well, I don't think you can call yourself a YA fan because you haven't even read the Hunger Games series. And I was like, oh, put me in my place. Not a fan then. And so she said, so I'm going to remedy that and you can borrow all of mine. And I was like, fine. Okay. God, they're so good. They are so good. and they have so many parallels to modern life. It's quite frightening in places. Anyway, so I was excited to read this prequel. I'm not going to say too much about it because if you've watched the film or if you want to read it yourself, then it would be lots of spoilers, but it's very gripping and I really enjoyed it. And then the last book, my current book actually, is this one, The Mothcatcher by Anne Cleeves. I love a bit of Anne Cleeves. She's great. So this is the Vera Stanhope series, and I don't know, it's probably about the 7th. I'm reading them through in order. I can't read a series out of order. It upsets me immensely. So I'm reading them through in order, and this one, I'm, you know, not very far through, but I'm really enjoying it at the moment. She, obviously, you've probably seen on TV. I haven't watched Vera on TV because she's in my head at the moment. I don't want to see what they've done with her. But I've read all of Anne Cleeve's Shetland series previously. They're amazing. I really want to go to Shetland for many reasons, for the nature, for the scenery, for the yarn and the wool industry. I want to go and have a great look around. And so the books really, I feel, give you a sense of place of Shetland. So I read the Shetland series first, and then I've moved on to the Vera series. So that's that. And then when I haven't been reading, so with my knitting, I've been watching quite a lot of podcasts recently. I really enjoy a podcast and a knit time. And a cup of tea. That's all good. So I just thought I'd mention a few that I've been watching most recently in case you don't know them. So this kind of last week and a half, I've mostly been catching up with Laura from Under Eagle Mountain, and she is a maker. She knits, she sews, she does natural dyeing on yarn and fabric, which I find really fascinating because I don't know really anything about that. So she's good for a listen and a look at what her projects are. Then I've also been catching up with Lisa from Bobo Bon, and Lisa is a seamstress and she makes most of her own clothes and she teaches sewing, and her style is vintage inspired and she uses vintage patterns, or she makes her own patterns often, and she often uses vintage fabrics when she can get them, and she knits as well. And so I've really enjoyed catching up with her recently. And then the other podcast I've been watching quite a lot is Rachel from By Rachel Bin, I think that's how I say it. And Rachel, she sews a lot, she knits, she's sort of doing a handmade sort of small in a kind of nice quiet way life with sort of cooking and garden and stuff, and I enjoy seeing what she's got up to. So that's 3 recommendations from me if you need some new people to watch. If you've got any recommendations for me, because I love finding a new podcast, then please feel free to comment below and let me know who you're watching or who you're reading, because I'm always happy to have some book recommendations too. That would be absolutely fabulous. So I've come to the end now of my very first episode. If you liked it and you feel like you could give it a thumbs up, that would be absolutely fabulous. If you, as I said, if you've got anything to say, feel free to write a comment and I'll get back to you. If you happen to want to subscribe, because there's going to be more now that I've started, and you don't want to miss them, then obviously that would be lovely too. So feel free to hit the subscribe button. Between podcasts, you can find me as Kate-EmVintage on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. So, you know, come along, follow me there. And thank you for, I feel like I maybe have just like knitting and spoken really fast for too long, but hope maybe it's been fine. And so thank you very much. Hopefully I wasn't just talking to myself, and goodbye. Have a really great week of making. I hope you get lots of time to make things that you want to make, and I will be back shortly. Thank you.